What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Giant Council. Baboon's here, and with my other two co-hosts today, and we are going to be discussing our enjoyment of the world of Elestrals and how we began.
Hi, I am Sky Guy, and I'll pass it to the next person.
Well, thank you so much, Sky Guy. So I am Jameson. I am also host here on this grand adventure. Take it away, baboons.
Wonderful. Thank you, my news host. Today, we are going to be revolving around the world of Elestrals, as each of us took our own roads to get here, and yet we've ended up in this wonderful world. Sky Guy, how did you end up in the world of Elestrals?
That's actually a funny question because the moment A-Drive, the maker of Elestrals, announced Elestrals, I thought it was a Pokemon ROM hack because I just watched his videos. So for like a month straight, I didn't watch the videos about it because I thought it was some ROM hack that I wasn't able to play because I didn't have a laptop yet. But eventually I watched one of the videos and found out it was an TCG and that it looked fun. So I bought a starter deck, the standard one. I was taught the ways to play Elestrals during a tournament of all things. The first ever tournament was the first time I played Elestrals. I somehow didn't get lost, but that was because I had a buy in I think the second round.
I remember that tournament.
So that's funny.
That's
I
pretty
remember
awesome.
that tournament. It was a good tournament.
And after that, I was trained by baboons to become the player I am now.
Yeah, that was a fun experience, honestly. And you played Thunder before it was popular and before it was broken. And that was a
And
very
then it
cool
became
experience.
broken and I didn't play it anymore.
Yeah.
Before it was good, right? Yeah.
Yeah, this is prototype. This is before even like the Kickstarter had even officially gone out. I had met Sky Guy and the only deck he had was Thunder. Going into my backstory, I used to casually watch A Drive's playthroughs just because I liked having stuff in the background and he was a fun person to listen to in the background. And I ended up catching the Elestrals Wind, and I am a collector of TCGs like Pokemon and Bakugan and sometimes even Yu-Gi-Oh! And as a collector, I was like, ooh, that it seemed interesting. I poked my head in and found myself in this world. And throughout my journey in it, I came to love water, much as I do in Pokemon. And I've always had a connection with water types, water abilities, spirits, and water has always been my home, even like real life. So I ended up coming connected with the water deck and being able to have the prototype. In fact, I joined just before their final send off of prototypes. They're like, we have 48 hours, and these are the last prototypes we have, and I snagged it, which was great.
Oh,
Um,
that's pretty awesome.
I even have one of each of those prototypes sealed, and I gave them to my father, and he gets to hold on to them. And I've been teaching him to play recently, which is a special feeling. So he has the original sealed proto of I think every single prototype.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a special feeling. But then when I came into this world, I was learning the game, and I fell in love with the healing and healing mechanics in this game, such as Sluggle. Wonderful card. Allows you to heal 3. So being able to heal and preserve yourself is something that I became accustomed to. I played in the first tournament. I didn't make it to the top cut, but it was fun. And then I ended up meeting Sky Guy, and he was the main person I competed against from then onward before
I think
Kickstarter.
the only person you beat in the tournament was me, actually.
I think it's definitely possible that that's how we met, but I don't quite remember that for sure. But I do know the two main people I played in Proto was Johnny and you. Johnny was working on his summer wins, which he ended up starting to hate. And I remember vividly the first time I ever beat Johnny, who's a great player, tons of respect out to him. First every time I beat him, I had I had 2 eruptions in my deck just because I could. I had a Sluggle regen. I only had 2 spirits left. I drew the eruption and won. with 2 fire spirits left. And I didn't even play Krakatuga. Like, this wasn't even a strategy. This was just, oh, I thought Eruption's a good card.
Back in the prototype days, we just ran everything we want. Like deck building didn't exist.
Back in the prototype days when I didn't even process Krakatuga. Exactly.
Somehow I think it's just right that you guys faced off against each other in the beginning and have been really good competitors and friends and played a ton of games, because I know I've seen you guys playing a lot of games.
Yeah, me and him played a ton back in the day, and I remember that he only beat me only a handful of times, and I was, like he said, I was more of a teacher because Thunder was not a good in the prototype at all, and I was just water heal, water stop, and
I had 27 cards to mismatch a deck with.
in all fairness, I had all 5 decks, so I could edit to my will. You only had the Thunder, I think, right? Yes, you only had the Thunder deck to mix and match with, so I had a lot more flexibility than you.
And just so the watchers and listeners know, the reason Thunder wasn't good in prototype is the Spark It. When he Nexus, you got to discard a card at random, and S-Rabbit only had 4 defense, and you had to reveal the cards you searched.
And then I don't believe there was a Volt Tempest either at that time.
No, there wasn't. Oh, and Jolton had 3 attack.
So it was very dry.
Yeah, that is one of those things though that with the prototypes and whatnot, and that's the reason why the cards have changed now.
Absolutely.
And that we have what we have now. It's because of consistent play testing and just grinding and learning and trying to figure out the best balance. So A Drive really did a great job with that, bringing together people to make it better. And he's always said it's a community project. It's not something that's just in his head. He's the driving force behind it, but we're the ones who make it better, because we are all part of that community, on the Discord, on Twitter, and all of the social medias that he has. So we're always driving him to be better, and he's always driving us to be better. So
Absolutely, and as long as we enjoy the game, and he's definitely fostered a positive community. There are very few in this community that have been like either aggressive or like negative. For the most part, I'm seeing positive, welcome to our community. Here's how this game works. I've been happy and proud to be like, yeah, this is how the game works. I'm happy to help. Like, it's been great allowing to, like, I've been here since Proto, allow me to help you learn the game. And it was a special feeling. But going back to Elestrals, I know that I ended up connecting with Sky Guy, but how did you end up in the world of Elestrals, Jameson?
see, I did come later to the game than you guys did. I was not involved in the prototype days. I didn't even know it existed at that time because I'm not a big follower of TCG, YouTube creators or anything like. Somebody did recommend.
Yeah.
I was doing some research for Digimon actually, and I found a Digimon content creator who picked up Elestrals and was talking about it. He's like, yeah, and the Kickstarter's coming up and all that stuff. And I'm like, I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. So then I did some research. I checked it out, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Yeah, maybe it's something I can get into, because my local group, or as it were, the people involved here don't play Digimon. They don't play a lot of the tertiary TCGs, right? Because they just play Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon.
Right.
But the thing is that those groups are not very welcoming and they're not very pleasant people to be around sometimes.
I mean, they're the base sets for almost any tiny community. They're the ones that people have the most knowledge about at the very least.
Because of their competitiveness and the fact that they've been playing for a really long time.
Yeah.
And some of them just don't know how to make it fun for new players to get involved in, because their fun is different than my fun, which is different than your fun, Baboons, or your fun, Sky. We all find fun in different ways. The thing we can totally agree on, I'm absolutely certain of,
sure.
is that we all find Lestrals fun, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this podcast. That's why we're playing in tournaments. That's why we're building decks and constantly playing on the app. That's why we're doing all the stuff that we're doing is because
Right.
we love the game. So I got involved a little bit after that. I did some checking out. I wasn't exactly sure about the game itself because I'm very leery because of the fact of, a lot of startup TCGs don't actually succeed or do very well early on or even later. They don't last longer than maybe, 6 months, a year, or whatever. So I look at that and I'm like, oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll get into it a little bit. And then the Kickstarter came around and I saw it and I got to see some of the things that he was going to do. And
Right.
A Drive is awesome. He's so hyped all the time. It's like he never turns it off. He's got so much energy and so much enthusiasm for this project and this game.
And I have to say, just for A Drive's dedication, like I saw him, especially like in the prototype days, he was discussing, he was talking, he was like always in the early stages of the channel. Like he was there talking with the community. He had his like developers also conversing with us. How does this feel? How does this work? Do you think that this will how like is this better or worse for you guys? And it was very vocal in the community that like, hey, let's make this succeed as a team. Like it felt good to be a part of this community because it felt like you were actually making an impact, at least back in prototype. You
Right.
felt very heard.
I think that's the reason why Elestrals got off the ground in the first place.
Oh yeah, because we were a small community. If we didn't feel like we were being heard, I'm not sure if we would have been staying around as long. But I feel like everyone in their own way were like,
Right.
hey,
Yeah.
let's go. The support, let's talk. Let's like everyone was very open to communication.
Well, what I would say in regards to that too is that he's always said this is a community thing. He's building a community of people to play the game, to entice people to play the game, to get people playing the game and keep people playing the game. That's why, he's constantly pushing out videos and constantly doing things to make the game better, to be the best game that it can be because of the community and because of what the community says to him. There's like, if they don't like something, they're like, let's do, this is unreal. But I actually got into the Kickstarter and I bought a huge chunk. I'm sure you guys did as well to get started on that. And that's how I got into it. And I think that with everything that we're doing and everything that's going on, I think that, it's only going to get better over time. And
Right.
it's only going to, I think it's going to stand the test of time. And I think that, in 10, 15, 20 years from now, we're still going to be talking about it. Hopefully, we'll still have this podcast. It's up to you, loyal listeners, that it's up to you.
It's up to you.
So without that, I mean, it's like we live off of the support of each other and the community, and I think the game is going to thrive. And I think that, like I said, in years to come, we're still going to be doing this. We're still going to be talking about it. It may not be on this podcast. It might be somewhere else, but we're still going to be talking about it. We're still going to be
Absolutely.
playing the game, I think. And I think the game is going to stand the test of time. I think that's potential.
Absolutely. And I agree with that just because there's always been support. And I feel like as long as the community and the open communication is there, then that is what happens. So I remember, I'm honestly, I'm thinking back to prototype and all the changes that were made.
Yep.
Because, like,
Well, it's been a long journey. I mean, it's
yeah,
been a long journey to get here to where we are. We're now what, about 2 years out from when Prototype was released, right?
yeah,
That's amazing that we're still here.
2 years
Yeah,
already?
yeah, it
2
Wow.
years.
feels like it definitely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because the Kickstarter launched last spring in 2023.
Yeah, it was about, I think
So
prototype was
Oh yeah.
almost half a year before Kickstarter. So
yeah, so we're a year and a half
yeah,
in of the development of this game,
God.
and there's no end in sight. I mean, I've heard A Drive mention things about, yeah, I've got sets planned out to set 12 or something like that. I'm like, well, oh my God, that's amazing. He's already got things in place so that he can stick to that rigid schedule that he set up.
I mean, just recently he unveiled his like mega plan, and it was like for this next year, we're getting like 4 new sets just this
Yeah.
year. in his like mapped out diagram, including worlds. And that's amazing that we're going to be able to have a worlds. Sure, it's probably not going to be as big as like Pokemon, at least this first year, but
Right.
sure, the potential is there and the excitement is real.
Oh yeah.
I just hope I don't have to fly to America to join the tournament.
Well, there's been talk about it that I've heard across the channels, right? Um,
Right.
and they, there is everybody's under the belief that it's either going to be a webcam tournament or it's going to be a digital tournament or both, possibly.
I mean, it makes sense. I don't know if you'd want to financially do something like that when we're still, in a sense, a small community. Sure, we'll be growing over this next year, especially with first edition coming out. But like,
Pre-orders available now for that. I mean,
that there is actually.
yeah,
Yes, pre-orders are out now at the date of this recording's being released.
pre-orders are now available to everyone.
Sorry, this is probably a total side note, but I just found my old Sluggle and it was heal 2 and had 4 defense. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
It has 4 defense?
It had 4 defense back in the day. And I thought it had 3 defense back in the day, but no, it was 4. So, well, I don't know if it's a nerf. I get 3 back. Are you kidding? That gives me a lot more momentum, especially if I play it in defense.
Wasn't it also a normal enchant?
Its defense got nerfed.
Its defense definitely got nerfed, but its healing got buffed. So I feel like that was a fair balance. Sure, I would have loved it if it was only made 3. That being said, I still think it is a useful card that I play consistently. In fact, I have been told by certain members of the community I make more use out of a Sluggle than anyone else,
Yeah, you do.
which filled me with a little bit of sense of pride.
You're an annoying player to play against, but it's a fun game regardless.
I do what I do best, and Sluggle is a
I mean, at least you're not as annoying as that one person that only plays Krakatuga. Not saying names, but the person probably knows who I'm talking about.
They know who they are. No, the Krakatuga players, you guys are awesome.
hey, he hates me and my Sluggles, and I mean I play against him consistently, and I just gotta say,
For sure.
Sluggle's better than Krakatuga. Shout out.
I'll tell you what. Well, I'll tell you what though. Like Krakatuga players, you guys are awesome. You're out there on the front lines trying to make it work. Because I feel that pain because I'm a mill player, and I'll tell you what, it is not easy to do, and it's definitely not easy to win. But I will assure you that I'm going to keep trying. And with every new set, I'm going to keep putting out using the new cards. If there's new mill cards, I'm going to be playing those. I'm going to just keep grinding and trying to make a mill deck work and make it competitive. So by the time Worlds hits, it's going to be like, mill baby, let's do this. All right.
And I love Krakatuga myself as a water player. I tried my best to learn and master every water card just because
Oh yeah.
have that devotion to being the water master. It's just what I believe in, what I want to be. So, like, if there's a water card, my objective is to learn
Sure.
it and understand it as quick as possible and make best use out of it. So I take great pride. I'm also a Krakatuga player. So, like, I joke about it, but that's just because I am one.
I mean, I haven't seen you play Javelantis at all.
I played Javelantis. I played it in connection with Caprarule. I wanted to get expending.
Interesting.
That brings up the point then. This is the question I want to ask then. Since we're having this discussion, I know
About the water world?
Yeah, well, here, Baboons, you're a water guy. I'm a fire guy. Sky guy, you're what? Earth, right? Or water? I can't remember.
I'm just a controller. I like
Right.
control decks.
Back in the day, he was Thunder. He is currently playing around Earth and a little bit of water.
Okay, so you're primarily an Earth player, but you're using the control aspects of it to play the game. Okay, so
Yeah.
I
of
mean,
your
that's my only really Visk with Earthquake.
okay, so of your
So
This
I'm just
earthquake
really an
and
Earth
water
player.
is what. Yeah.
well, this earthquake and everything that shuts down what you want to do. Got it. So out of those chosen elements, and I'm just going to leave it as Sky Guy's Earth and Baboon's your water, and I'm fire, right?
Yeah. Let's just call it for that right now.
Yeah, let's go do for the purposes of my question. Of your element, what do you think is the weakest card?
Ooh. Now that is a question.
Yeah. Because everybody has their own opinion about what they think is the weakest card of their element. I want to know because you primarily play water, I primarily play fire, and well, Sky Guy plays whatever trips his trigger at the time. So,
Yeah.
but
He's very fluid right now. He ever since he got his yeah, ever since Thunder.
I mean, it's most of the time it's just water in combination with something. Like one of the decks I made recently was
Mhm.
water, Pantera.
okay, start with Sky Guy then. Let's start with you. Because you play a variety of decks that are have a water focus, but have other elements mixed into them primarily, and it's not a mono deck specifically, right? What do you think is the weakest card overall of the lessons?
Overall, I mean, I've not really messed around with Thunder
Mhm,
or I mean fire a little bit, and also not really wind.
mhm,
But if I had to choose the weakest one overall, it would
mhm.
probably have to be in water,
Okay,
sadly enough.
sure.
Maybe like for the one drops, it's probably like Typhlant, because the one random
Mm,
discard with the super low stats,
right. Okay.
it's not gonna do anything. It maybe works in a Capricorn deck, but that's if
I
Capricorn
have
gets
a
through the Capro.
counter. I have a counter to the point. I do agree. Typhlant is not the best card, and I won't despite that. However, I think there is a card that you're overlooking that may be even worse. And that water card, which is my choice, is the one and only Kraken. I love his design and I think he looks
Mhm,
great. However, at a 2/2 and only stuns, if you attack him with the next card you summon, you
mhm,
immediately free the Elestral that was stunned, and that Elestral can attack you. I wish his stun worked until the end phase of your opponent's turn. That way, at least you'd be blocking it for a full your turn and his turn. But it's
mhm.
only a partial stun that does not stay permanent. And at a measly 2 defense and 2 attack, almost anything can hit over it.
Fun
Right.
fact: if you use it in combination with Foamy, you can actually stun an opponent and then have it stay on the field. Because if the opponent has two cards on field, they kill Foamy, you cast Cracket and empower the card that hasn't attacked yet.
Yeah,
Hey,
but there's no specific like, hey, look at me diversion that prevents you from not attacking the Kraken, is what I'm saying. On the
right,
next
Yeah,
turn, the Kraken gets destroyed no matter what, and there's no way around that.
right.
And that's why Kraken is struggling right now, and why I nominate it as the weakest water right at the
Okay.
moment.
All right. So we have the two weak water cards that have been nominated.
Typhlant and Kraken.
I mean that that's for one cost, because one cost can be slotted into a deck. Two cost and three cost have to be built around. So like if I would have to choose a two or three cost, it would probably be the Ivory, the big Typhons, for the people that don't know the
I
card,
could definitely see Ivory. I could see Ivory.
and Gatbolt.
Ooh, Gato. Dude, you want to talk about Gato Bolt? Dude, Gato Bolt. I haven't seen it be played since Proto. It was proud like Gatabolt. If I'm trying to remember if this is the right one, but Gatabolt was the first like I think official Nexus I ever saw, because originally it was a Nexus before it was changed. And I remember like being proudly displayed. A lot of different people were like, "Okay, how does this Nexus mechanic work?" And a lot of people, or at least when I was observing games and watching and playing, like people were trying to figure out Nexus, and Gatabolt was displayed as what I saw first. So it comes to my mind. But now I think it's changed for like something attack and defense. I'm not sure.
It's +1 attack, +1 defense for each Thunder Enchanting this Gatable, and you have to target a Thunder Enchanted Elestral.
Yeah,
Wait, what is it? Ah,
I'd say the way to make him better is to make him last until the next draw phase. of your draw phase. Like it also lasts through your opponents.
I mean, he's better than people give him credit for, but
Oh, when you said it was a 2 cost, that didn't fully register to me. It's a 2 cost now. It used to be a 1 cost that Nexus. Now it targets Thunder, right? To give him
it's got to be a Thunder Enchanted Elestral, and he gives him +1/+1 for each Thunder Spirit on Gatapult.
boosted attack. Yeah. Well, I mean, that makes him sound like a lot stronger than he used to be. However, I still have never seen him be played after prototype deck. After he was changed from that, I have not seen him played once. Ever.
I haven't really seen him played at all either.
Yeah, I mean, I suggested the card to J. Johnny in I think the second or third week of the Elestriad, but he didn't pull it from Prague, so he didn't get played.
Interesting. I knew that he got the Nexus change. I just didn't know it became a 2 cost. That's interesting. I didn't know that. The more you know. What is your choice, Jameson? You have not stated yours.
Yeah, I have not. You're correct. So, looking at the card set, right, for my fire card, I am also going to pick a 2 cost for my fire card that is the weakest of all the fire and base set, and that's Floracne. And the reasoning behind that is because Floracne is a 2 cost, and it creates summoning sickness for anything that's not fire
Oh,
enchant.
the spider. You're right. I haven't seen that played at all either.
He's barely played because he's not as good as a 2 cost by saying, unless you're a fire, you can't attack me on the turn that you cast an Elestral. Well, the problem is he's a 2 cost, so now I have to survive with a 1 cost. Then I have to ascend him, and now you can't attack me right away. But also his stats are kind of lackluster for a 2 cost. He's a 4/8. He's got a really high defense for fire. That's amazing, right? But
Yeah, that's mostly a water. That's a water setup for 8. Yeah, it's a water.
it's a water thing, right? So to have a spider with an 8 defense in a fire deck, yeah, it's great. He's an insectoid. It's awesome. But the effect is less than stellar. Ha ha ha. Pun
At least
intended.
for a 2 cost, it's less than stellar. And it in fact it has the same effect as the Thunder card Riceros, but it's a 2 cost, which Riceros is only a 1 and saw a ton of play just because it was a good staller for a quick moment. Floracne can't be a quick stall because there's no quick way to bring it out, which is why it is as bad as it could be.
All right, so that's my choice from fire. If I had to choose one overall from the entire set, that's a tough call because there's a lot of suboptimal cards in
Well,
there.
that's just because there's all that growing and learning. I'm not sure if I'm willing to state my worst card in the entire set because I'm not sure I would have one. My main thought would still be Kraken though, because it's a stall card that doesn't stall correctly.
Well, it doesn't work the way that we.
It's a stall card that doesn't stall correctly. If it was 4 defense, then it'd be a good stall that stalled correctly.
So then that brings us to runes, though. I mean, we're looking at runes.
Ooh, if we're going to runes.
We talked about Elestrals, right? We talked about the creatures themselves.
Yes.
We haven't really talked about runes. And to be fair, I don't think there's in element, all of the runes for the elements are just fine. I think the Hammer of Festus is okay. Probably is not going to see a whole lot of use
I
overall.
had to pick one for the current moment of my rune. Looking at everything we want, everyone knows that I believe that the best one is Gorgons because of how flexible it is. That being said, the worst one,
I'm just gonna say it's the stadium. One of the best runes in the game is the stadium. Is the stadium that matches your main type.
they are very good, and I'm not disrespecting them at all. But I'm also gotta say, Gorgons has the ability to pick and choose. You can destroy Galaxy without even having it to be your turn by just swapping it back. You have the ability to stop Ascensions. You have the ability to stop Nexuses. You have the ability for full prevention. I think that is currently the best card, followed up by Stadiums. Because Stadiums are very effective at boosting you just over the numbers you need to hit your opponent. In a crucial moment, a +1 can mean the world.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with that. That's a totally fine assessment in regards to
But
that.
back to the matter at hand, which is the worst. I have to give that to the Necklace of Harmonia. And while it is great for +5, it's a giant boost. Like, no disrespect. However, if I attempt to give it to an opponent, which is something I could do, all they have to do is ascend, and there's no issue. If I give it to my own guy, the cost is rough. Even as a water player, my whole like world revolves around ambrosias and sluggles. Like I heal and heal and heal, but even that's not good enough to put a necklace in because it's not only a 2 cost, but I have to expend 2 for it. And and there's no punishment for ascending or no punishment for getting rid of it. It's only the expend for using it. So it's the ultimate double-edged sword that no one, I think, would like to use.
Right, I got that. Now, what's in your opinion as a water player? You have 4 water runes.
Yes.
Of those 4,
Trident, Atlantis, Tsunami, and the boy himself,
right.
Poseidon.
So I said my choice from my 4 runes is the hammer as the weakest of the 4, right?
Yeah.
Out of your 4 runes, what is your weakest rune in the water, do you think?
Well, I'm gonna state right now, the most used is definitely Tsunami. Even other decks that aren't water play Tsunami. Like that is how consistent Tsunami is. It is a counter road that sees action. So I'm definitely not gonna say that.
That's why I play water. It stops tsunami entirely.
Exactly. Water stops momentum. Exactly. That's why Tsunami is so good. That being said, if I had to choose one, I think I'd have to go with the Trident of Poseidon itself because before its change, it stopped targeted counters. However, for the most part, counters don't target. For example, Shield. Like,
Tsunami shield.
exactly, they just don't target. And that was a huge hindrance until the edit, which made it so it was an entire prevention of Trident. Now, Trident is so much stronger than it used to be. And we were revealed Draw Aqua, which is finally our Nexus. We were finally revealed that, and so now we've got our Nexus. Now, depending on how that goes, I can see that either being amazing or meh. I'm not quite sure yet, and I definitely, based on how I'm looking at it, because we have the best Nexus or the most Nexus. I'm not gonna say best because we have Poseidon and we got our Water Nexus. How so? That is
You need to remember the name, right? You're the water guy. What's the name of the water nexus?
I know what it is.
it is. I'm being targeted, and I have to say that the one, the only Aphros, guys, don't make me hesitate. That's not fair.
It's not fair.
Aphros, my boy. Hey, I haven't played him much unless I was doing a Nexus into a quick ascension. There was no real use for him, but Majesty. However, I can see plays where I grab this water receive, I Nexus, and I immediately ascend to Majesty. So I get 4 heals and an ascension. But I don't know because honestly, that doesn't involve Aphros because in order to do that, it's a Poseidon play because it would take up my cast.
My thinking is this, right? All 4 of the water runes are pretty strong, right?
I agree 100%. They're all very good at what they do.
But if you had to pick one that is the weakest of the 4 on your play strategy, I'm not saying overall because we all have differing opinions. I know which one I would pick.
I would say it's Trident just because without Poseidon, it still is only a target. And
Okay.
target is not good enough. Without
Okay.
Poseidon, it's not useful.
Right. Okay.
It's just a +2.
Okay. So there's that. Okay. So then I'm going to turn to Sky Guy and ask you a question. We're going to say
Out of Earth.
out of Earth at this point. Yeah. What do you think is the weakest rune out of Earth from the base set?
Good question.
I'm going to say Earthquake. It's the weak. No, I lied.
Really? No
No,
way in
I'm
hell.
kidding.
That's
Because
Are you kidding? Do you know how many people use Earthquake? Sure, it's a
I know.
cost,
I'm
but at the same
kidding.
time, it is a guaranteed elimination. If it had its
just to be annoying to some people, I'm just gonna say Demeter.
Well, no, because I would agree with it. That Demeter is probably the weakest of that. Yeah.
I wouldn't deny that. No, I think the scythe is very good at what it does because it heals, and as a heal lover, I like getting the ability to secure myself. Demeter, most people I've heard Like people have connected like Demeter is like where's Zeus, because Zeus can target your opponent and then you can hit the opponent over multiple times. However, Demeter just buffs your own guy, and if that one guy gets stopped, the entire movement stops.
And then, when you look at Thunder, I think the Thunderbolt of Zeus is the weakest one in that.
Yeah, I agree.
And looking at
It's a fun card to play.
Oh, it is a fun card to play, but I think it's the weakest of the 4.
I mean, but I don't like Thunderbolt though. I mean, sure, but all Thunderbolt does is get rid of a back row, and that back row can be chained. Like so,
Right, but you also have the fact that it buffs your dude, and you have to also eliminate or destroy an Elestral for that effect to kick. So it's very conditional, and I don't think it's very good overall. There are other choices in your Thunder runes that are better. Thunderstorm is amazing.
so you're saying that Thunderbolt is worse than Thunderstorm?
Right, because Thunderstorm is I spend 2 Thunder and I just blow up a rune. Thunderbolt requires me to attach it to an Elestral and then have that Elestral destroy another Elestral. The problem is that that's a huge gamble, because if that Elestral doesn't destroy the other Elestral, they keep their back row card that you want to get rid of, and they could do whatever they want to your Elestral. They could shield it, they could tsunami it, they could do whatever.
And it is, you know what? I will agree with you, just because it is also a 2 cost that can just get bounced back. So unlike Thunderstorm, Thunderstorm forces them to act on their back row, while a Bolt allows them to either shield bounce or do another momentum, and then they're left with nothing. So other than Earth, I'm hearing that the weapons are not the play.
Well, except for Wind, where we have the weakest one in Wind, I think, is Tornado.
I agree with that 100%.
Tornado.
While Tornado is a 1 cost, most people have decided to say, even though it's a 1 cost, it just blows it back to a hand, and it's much more effective to use a P-Gust, a 2/3, which is a decent body, and guarantees its destruction instead of just bouncing it back for a turn. That way I can hit.
Right. I agree with that. That's why I say that's the weakest one. Aeolus, probably of all of the divines, probably sees the most use in Wind decks, primarily, obviously, because it's a Wind card. But Bag of Wind has seen an uptick.
I would definitely say Aeolus is first, but a close, and I mean very close second, is Zeus.
Oh yeah,
You see it everywhere.
those two
Like,
are the top.
it's hard. I never see a deck without Zeus
Yeah.
in Thunder,
Right.
unless the person's new to the game. But like, I don't know.
Right. No, and I get that. Yeah, but I think those two are on the top.
I wanted to say I ran a Lycophil deck without Zeus, but then I remembered I had a 1-up Zeus in there just to have it in there.
Yeah, that's just because Zeus is that good. You even if it's like, oh, I don't need it, you always run one off because it can help clear the board of opponents.
Right, and we also already talked about stadiums being good, so none of them are actually, they're all the same basically for their element, but they're all still really good.
I would like to state that the stadiums are never the best, but they're also not the worst. They are a solid they're a solid second or third place in pretty much every deck.
They're a good tech card to have in your deck, of at least 1 or 2 of them in your deck, so that if you do draw into it, you got that little extra edge on that turn before your opponent destroys it, if they even target it for destruction.
Also, well, because most people don't target their destruction. Most people lay out a set of 4 back row, and then they want to get rid of a back row, not the rune sitting there. Like, oh, what's a +1 gonna do? Everyone underestimates
Yeah.
that thing, and then I'm able to hit over with it because you're concerned about my back row.
And then you got Bag of Wind.
Bag of Winds does what Bag of Winds does best, and that's prevent Earthquake.
Yeah, it's really good at doing some prevention. It's not run in a lot of decks, but the decks that are aggro heavy tend to run it so that they don't get they get to keep their big beefy guys and just keep overrunning their opponent, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, there's also the tag that most people will run it with Astrabbit. That way, there's no hit over, there's no way to get around it, and it's just sitting there.
I've lost a game because of Bag of Winds by Nymph.
Yeah, see, it's those 5 defenses that you cannot get over with that chain of Bag of Winds. You sit there, you're able to accrue whatever you need from your hand, while your opponent can't do anything about it. Sure, they're also drawing with you, but if they can't stop Rabbit, then you have freedom to either ascend or put another guy on the field or set a back row or do whatever you need to gain momentum for yourself.
Right. And then, overall that's pretty much the highlights of base one, I think, that we've actually covered quite a bit today. So I think that that's a really good overview of how we feel about the cards and what's in the set. I think that that's a good gauge. So but I would say, hey listeners, if you disagree with us or if you have a differing opinion, feel free to leave a comment. Contact us through the links in the description below. Right now we are looking at pre-orders are available for base set 1, so if you don't already have it, or you want to shore up what you already have from the Kickstarter, now's the time to get involved in that. So anything else we want to discuss before Baboons takes us out?
Thank you so much for supporting us. We greatly appreciate it.
There you go. So Sky Guy, any final thoughts?
See you next time.
All right. Yep, this has been the Divine Council. We thank you for listening. Look forward to seeing episodes in the future.
See you next time.
Thank you for listening. We hope you have enjoyed this program. If you'd like to know more information about Elestrals or any of the other topics we discussed today, just click any of the links in our description. They'll take you to the various different locations to learn more about Elestrals and the people that make it. Also, if you'd like to support us, you can just click one of the links in the description. That'll take you to our Patreon page, where just a small donation will get you behind the scenes content and other fun things that we're going to be doing in the future. If you'd like to support us in another way, please go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. Again, thank you for listening, and we hope you have a fantastic day.